Welcome to the RedVee TV Show, supported by Chapel House Cars for the 2024 season. Kevin, it's Headingley on Friday night.
And that can only be one thing. It can only be one thing. Tariq's.
Yes! I didn't know where you were going with that then. The greatest kebab shop in the world, Tariq's.
Oh, I'm not. There's one right down the road from me, which is absolutely superb. I will recommend that one as well. Shaz now.
You'd have to go with us for that.
Yeah, you would have to. That's the problem.
Challenge Cup draw, Kev. We're going back to back to Leeds. We can get an easy draw. Well, we say easy draw, but will the Eagles repeat their cup giant killing once again? Saints beat Leeds, go into the Good Friday derby, full of confidence on the bounce, while Wigan's season is in turmoil. That is how I see it going. Do you feel the same?
There is every chance that Sheffield will win that game against Wigan. Every single chance.
Are we bringing is it Mark Aston?
Yes.
Bring Mark Aston out of retirement to guide them round the pitch. Listen, do you know what? People are going, oh, it's the worst draw possible. I want to face the big teams first. Because, first of all, if you're going to win the cup, generally you're going to have to beat some decent sides along the way. And equally, if you're going to get knocked out early on to save yourself some money rather than Wembley heartbreak.
I think my only issue with that is, listen, we went up to this place on an away day. Absolutely glorious sunshine. Absolutely fantastic hosts at Whitehaven. I do like them away days. I get what you're saying, but I do like them away days where you can go somewhere completely different and enjoy your day. And as I say, Whitehaven were gracious hosts. And to be honest, it didn't feel like we had it all of our own way to start off with. And then once fitness and skill kind of took over, didn't it? We won it easy.
Will point out Whitehaven was on a nice sunny, was it May or June afternoon? Yeah. I'm not entirely sure Batley in mid-March would have the same feel to it. Well, it definitely wouldn't have the same feel. Right, let's get on to the show, Kevin.
Yes.
We are ready for the Rhinos part 1, but we are also ready for the RedV Forum next Monday night.
Oh, lovely segue.
If you haven't been following our social media, we will be joined by Saints Player of the Year, Members Player of the Year as well, James Bell, Moses Mbai, and RedV's Noah Stevens. There are a handful of tickets left, I think about 10. And if you want to join us in the forum hosted by Mike Bennett, in conjunction with the Saints Community Foundation, get in touch with us via our social media feeds, on the messages, or you can message Dave Howarth on the number there, 07908 646 569. And we hope to see you there because there's a buffet ordered. And any left over will be going into my belly.
Yeah, it'll be going into Dave's lunch for the next day. Fund.
Bring a doggy back.
It was a great night last time we were down there. Absolutely fantastic. I think the crowd loved the intimacy of it, the fact that it isn't a massive room in there. You get to ask the players what you want. The food was tremendous. It's a great setting, great little setup they've got down there. So, yeah, I'm sure them last 10 tickets will be snapped up soon.
Yes, and hopefully we will have some fantastic raffle prizes and something for an auction as well. So if you have already booked your ticket, bring a little bit of extra money with you. It might be worth your while.
Yes, good lad.
Right, this week for Saints, Kev. It's the Academy. It Leeds on Thursday night. It's being played at Headingley. Obviously, we're going to Headingley ourselves on Friday night. And then the women's season pretty much kicks off on Saturday against the London Broncos. I think that's the Challenge Cup game, isn't it, Kev?
It is, yes. It is. Good to see him at the stadium as well.
Yeah, good 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Everton aren't playing this weekend, so I may well head down to catch the action. Hopefully, we get some nice weather. It seems to be warming up a little bit, Kev, which means hopefully we will not get soaked at Headingley on Friday night.
Well, fingers crossed. Absolutely, fingers crossed. I'm just looking. Oh, Burnley player. I was just going to say, we could go down and watch the women's game and both not be disappointed watching a team who can put a performance on a Saturday afternoon and a 3 o'clock kickoff. But Burnley are playing, so they're going to ruin my weekend, aren't they?
Yeah, you can go down to Saints or you can watch Burnley go down instead.
I think it's too late for that. Already gone. Anyway.
Yeah. Saints squad, Kevin. The big one that is missing is obviously Mark Percival picking up a 2-game ban for the challenge on Ormond Road in the Salford clash where he got sent off. Not much you can really say except, yeah, under the current rules, it's a 2-game ban. Well, we potentially thought it could be more, but he's got 2 games.
Yeah, I think beforehand we were expecting that it could well be at least a game more, if not a couple. That's probably down to conversations that have been had about trying to keep players on the field and bringing down the gradings and everything like that, or the match bans anyway. It's a tough one because it's one of them collisions that you can sell the game on the back of, but they've also got to be careful at the minute. The current framework deems that a 2-game ban and a red card, and I'm not going to argue too much with that. I can't really.
Well, listen, seeing it live, you just think it's a big hit, and you think it's late. It's when you see it in slow mo, you can see that he makes connection with the head. Held hands up once we'd seen it. What we didn't do was do what we do when we're normally rushing to the defence and posting the slow-mo videos over Twitter. Because as we've said before, Kev, we are not the prosecution.
Yes, no, not at all. It's one of them that when you see it back, as I say, I'm not going to argue too much with it. It's a type of challenge that back in the day you would have sold the game on. This day with news that keeps coming out about people taking action against the RFL, that's where we are as a sport at the minute.
It should see Connie come straight back into the squad, but you'll give us the rest of the squad news, Kev.
Yeah, Matty Lees is back in, and as you say, Connie's back in as well, with Curtis Sirenham missing out. I've not seen word as we're filming this, but he came off 2 weeks ago with a back spasm, and you don't know whether, if that's not quite settled down with getting Batch and Matty Lees back, whether it's just a week that we can say, well, sit down for this week because we've got a squad that we can kind of take to Leeds and go and try and win the game over there, and we'll have you back in for the cup game the week after. And the other one dropping out is RedV.net sponsored Noah Stevens.
Yes, he is currently preparing himself to be grilled by an audience of Saints fans on Monday night, so he has got the weekend off.
Yes, nice and fresh for it.
As you say, if Sirenham has got that little bit of a knock, it may just be one of those injuries that you just need that week of rest. And delighted to see Gerard Arms, Gerard Songsters, Dave Howarth, coaches, sponsored Joe Batchelor back in the squad this week. And he's on the squad photo, which, given the track record this season, means he might not actually play.
Yeah, I think we usually have a little look at our 17, and I think that for me is the will he, won't he. I think with Matty Lees coming back in, I think he comes straight back into the 17. If Joe's a week shy of it, it might just be a good one to have him in and around and show that he's on that path of coming back. And I almost think it may well be between him and Moses and Barrie who gets into that 17. I've just got a feeling we're going to go for a bit of a bigger bench, and it will be more like a Delaney, Matautia, Wingfield, probably James Bell, with a little bit of leeway there with Matautia being able to cover a couple of positions and as much as I don't like seeing it, Jake Wingfield being able to cover at 9.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing how we line up with Batch one side, Matt Whitley the other. I think they'll complement each other really well. It's like a mirror image now on each side of the field. I think they just offer very similar ways they play the game. Yeah, I think Matty Lees comes back straight in as well. I think otherwise, if you weren't looking at putting Matty Lees straight back into your 17, you'd probably still see Noah Stevens in that 21-man squad as well, which probably is quite telling. For me, missing out, as you say, I think Ben Davis, Sam Royal, T. Ritson. Although T. Ritson had a really good game for the reserves last Saturday down at Fatto Heath. So he'll be knocking on the door, hoping for an opportunity soon. But yeah, I can't see past Davis, Royal, Ritson to miss out. And then, as you say, maybe Moses and Bay or Jake Wingfield.
Yeah, I almost think Jake stays in just because he's a little bit more utility, can play anywhere in the pack. And that's possibly why. I would fully expect to see that changed up when we get to the Cup, though.
I think whoever it is, 18th man this week, can consider themselves very, very unlucky. And listen, we're assuming everyone's fit. How many times this season has somebody just had a little knock and misses out? Because there's no need to risk anyone. Right, Kev, we will move on to our opponents, the Leeds Rhinos.
Also, 3 changes for these. The big one for them is Paul Momirovski. I hope I've said that right. Just with a slight injury they put on the website. Tom Nicholson-Watton has gone on loan to York. Daryl Alforts has left to go to Wakefield. They've been replaced by James Bentley, Ned McCormack, which is one of the best Yorkshire Rugby League names I've heard in some time. James McDonald as well. They are missing a couple. Sam Lizone's missing, David Fussy-Two at the winger, and Morgan Gannon, who's out with a concussion protocol. But why am I talking about the Leeds squad? Why are you talking about the Leeds squad? Why don't we get an actual expert from Leeds onto the show?
And we are delighted to be joined by a man who has made 283 Leeds Rhinos appearances, capped by England, Ireland, and 15 times by Great Britain. It's Sky Sports Rugby League pundit, Barrie McDermott. Barrie, delighted to have you on the show.
Well, I'm delighted, seeing as we had this conversation a good few months ago. Took your bloody time, didn't you? Offered my services, no invoice, no payment, no nothing. My dad used to say to me, if you work for free, you'll get a job every day of the week, unless it's Redvee TV.
We've had to wait till we needed your expertise because, unfortunately, neither me or Kev are down on Leeds Rhinos. So we needed to ask the man who will know a lot more about them than us. So first of all, Barrie, results-wise, Leeds started the year well. 3 wins, 1 against last season's grand finalist Catalan, and just a single defeat so far. What have you made of the performances in those 4 games?
I think it's a different team in 2024. Rowan Smith, if you ever take the time to listen to him pre-match, post-match, it's all about play. It's all about expressing yourself, and it's different to what Leeds have had over the last couple of years, because I think they've had Richard Agar, I nearly said Roland Agar then. Richard Agar, they've had Dave Furner, very much, I think probably defence first, then attack later, as is the style these days. Everybody wants to get the defence right. But I think with Rowan Smith, it's trick shots, it's the unpredictable, the unexpected. You go on a Friday night to Headingley, and as soon as they start lining up for the short kickoffs, you can hear the groan, you can hear everybody in the crowd saying, "Oh my word, not again." But the team are playing with that kind of attitude that they make it happen, and they get the right end of it more often than not because they're in that mindset. So I think 2024, it's a steady incline. They've got a little bit better each and every week, although I'd have to say that out of all the games that they play, the one that I watched that I thought that was a bit iffy was last week's win against Lee. Lee Leopards are a great side, but they were dire, weren't they? The first 40 minutes Leeds, and then managed to turn it round with a few individuals coming to the fore, which is good signs for later on down the track. But as we know, when it gets to the business end of the season, you can't afford to have a set off, never mind a full half of rugby league.
Yeah, similarly, Saints have had pretty much a mirror start of Leeds with 3 wins and last week's defeat to Salford. Can you read too much into the defeats that early in the season, or is it a fair balance of where the teams are at the minute?
It's always, as you look at a season in context, you lads have been watching rugby league as long as I have. You get to the end and you can't remember what happens in round 3. You can't remember those sort of peaks and troughs of the season. But I'm like everyone else, looking at Saints, maybe Wigan as well, and looking at the transition hasn't affected Saints or Wigan in the same way that it has affected teams like Leeds. The youth system, the kids waiting in the ranks to get their chance and get their opportunity with teams like Wigan, with teams like Saints. I think if you probably put Warrington and Hull and Leeds and some of the other sort of middle teams in second place behind those. So I'm not worried about Saints. I know they're going to be there or thereabouts at the end of the year. I expect them to learn from that last game last year. It was a good game. I was on the comms for it. It was a good game to be part of. It was a good game to be involved in. And you get to the end of those games and you're as tired as anybody else. But I expect that the group, which is by and large, apart from the 2 experienced players, it's the same group in it. So I don't think you can read too much in it. I don't think the red card had too much of a bearing on the results. What do you lads think? Would you have sent Percy off?
I wouldn't at the time. Obviously, watching live in the stadium, it was very hard to see what Percy actually did. And I think even like we did the instant reaction outside the ground and we said it was harsh. You'll be sending players off all over the show, and it had a real bearing on the result. Because up until that point, I thought Saints were comfortable. It's when I've got home and I've put the Sky Q on and I've slowed it down, I've looked at it in slow-mo, and at that point, I've had to say, hands up, under the way the rules have gone this year and what's gone before, he's made contact with the head. And sometimes we might not agree with the rules, and I don't think we do, but under the way it is, you've just got to hold your hands up and take your medicine. I feel he was actually lucky to get 2 games in the end. I thought it could have been potentially 3. I think the conversation that the players and the officials have had in the last couple of weeks might have meant the bans have been reduced a little bit from what they were. So unfortunately, he'll miss this week and next.
Both games against Leeds,
Yeah, 2 different.
Doing you a favour.
I'm like everybody, and unfortunately for me, the job that I do now, everyone says you were a bloody thug, you were worse than anybody, and obviously,
we used to call you on the topside terrace.
Well, that was a different era, and I'm glad I played in the era that I played. But I understand what they're trying to do. I don't like it because I think the combat side of what we do, the impact, the collision, is one of the best things about the sport. We've got the skill and we've got the courage and bravery and all the rest of it. But I think those moments where it's boom, it's 2 big blokes, colliding. I love those. But having sat down with Robert Hicks, having sat down on a second time with a lot of my colleagues at Sky, and sort of had the theory behind the practice and what they're trying to achieve and what they're trying to get rid out of our game, which is that both heads being in the same place and liable to collide. I think we've got to hold our hands up and say we may try to get rid of that and get rid of more of those. It doesn't mean we won't have them. It means we'll try and get rid of most of them. And I think I was on one on Saturday night with Hull, with Jack Ashworth, and then Percy's as well. Both quite similar. And it's a sign of the times, I think.
Yeah, I think those big collisions are probably going to go out of the game a little bit. I feel if you were playing today, you'd probably spend more times on the sideline now than you do actually in the commentary box.
You're probably right.
Leeds.
I'm glad I played in my era.
Yeah.
I'm glad you played in your era because it was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
Leeds have a brand new spine this year. Lockie Miller, Brodie Croft, Matt Frawley, and Andy Acker's taken up the key positions. Is it early? It's early days, obviously, but how are they gelling?
I like it. It's quick. It's fast. Brodie Croft is assertive. Matt Frawley seems to sit back and play that role of being the thinker of the side. And I'm not sure. So if I look at the four of them, so Andy Acker's instant success. I feel a bit sorry for Arjad because Arjad finds himself on the bench and he covers hooker and back row, Jared O'Connor. I feel a bit sorry for him, but he's in the 17. But Andy Ackers is just a dynamic player. He adds a different dimension. And Brodie Croft, I think, can, as we saw last week, flip a game on its head. Matt Frawley, it's hard to see for the uninitiated and the uneducated what he does. I think he needs to do a bit more, but I can see what he's trying to do. And then Lockie Miller, I think of all those spine players, he's the one that needs a dry track. He keeps slipping, he keeps dropping the ball, and then he gets frustrated. But I think there's a good player in there. So it's exciting from Leeds' point of view.
Yeah, it sounds good. You're talking about like game changers. Where is this game won or lost on Friday? Is it like in the forwards, your spines, as you're talking about there, or just game breakers, your likes of Jack Wellsby, your likes of Harry Newman?
Well, those two players, and obviously we've had a chat before we recorded, those two players are two of the most exciting players in our sport and superstars. Both got, a list of assets as long as your arm. There's one or two glitches in the game that they're working on and they will work on for the rest of their career. The game could be won and lost, I think, in the small moments. The big moments, they both got game winners, match winners, players that can break a game open. Forward packs are well matched. Backline, I like pace. I like teams that can create a chance and execute and get the points from a chance or two. I don't think the team that creates 5 chances and converts one will show up on Friday. What we know when we see these two teams play, it's fast. It's fast, innit? It's quick, and both teams look to attack from deep. There's a number of players within both teams that can go the length of the field. So I think it's going to be won in the small moments. And when I say the small moments, I mean getting those little things right. You can see when you watch a game nowadays how an incorrect play of the ball, an untidy pair of markers can then lead to a bit of momentum, and then before you know it, you've been defending for 3 or 4 sets of 6.
Obviously, the cup draw was made on Monday evening. Saints face back-to-back trips to Headingley this week and next. Is that going to have any effect on the game plan this week? Is it going to be in the back of the coaches' minds, the players' minds? Does it have any effect at all?
It's a good question, and if I think back to my playing days, if you ever got that and it did crop up, you wouldn't want to lose that first one. So my words, there's nobody on either side of the Pennines going, I tell you what, lads, let's forget this week because we're going to focus and concentrate on that one. You want the first one to give yourself a chance in the second one. If you don't get the first one, then you turn up for the second one trying to get rid of the memory of the first one. It was funny, actually. I've been in Saints today. I went to OD's. OD's look after me with all my gear, and a shout out to Chris and
Chris
all
OD.
I did Kilimanjaro for Precky's Foundation with Chris, and we had a great time and a smashing fella, and all these lads in the shop are as well. And I was talking to them, and they were saying they were looking forward to going over to Headingley, and it were a disappointment because it wasn't a Saturday. Now I'm looking, and obviously I'm on the other side. I'm on the Sky side, not the BBC side. So I'm looking at it thinking, Saturday afternoon, trip over to Leeds. Looks like it might be good weather. A few pubs, few bars around Headingley. That would have been perfect. But unfortunately, it's on a Friday night. I think they're 2 great games, 2 fascinating games. I'd love to see both sets, 17 first-choice players, but that's not the sport we play, is it? There's injuries, suspensions, and just going off piste a little bit here now. I watch games, and if there's an injury in the back line, I've never known it ever in my time in rugby league. if we ever named a winger on the bench, you'd be like, well, bloody hell, that's a waste of a spot, isn't it? Why are we carrying one of the lip gloss gang on the bench? you get an injury, or you get a head assessment injury, which is, you know, out of everybody's control. It's not that those wingers aren't brave enough and aren't tough enough like they were sometimes back in the day, but you know, they're just taken out of the game. So the sidetrack I'm taking you down is Paul Wellens and Rowan Smith have to be absolutely spot on with the subs, because the bench is as important as the start players, but then the rotation and who fits in where, you know, that's like a game of chess, like we wouldn't understand now. So yeah, two great coaches. Hopefully the first team and the first game is probably near as damn it the second one, and we get to see over 2 legs, you know, what these 2 teams are all about.
Yeah, before I pass it on to Kev, I've always thought you look well dressed, and now we know why, because you definitely it's getting your clobber on the side.
I know, they look after me, yeah. They look after me. Yeah. Don't give me enough discount, but that's it.
Well, he's never give us one, so there we go.
It's interesting you're talking about that back on the bench, just to go a little bit off what my next question was going to be, because you think of the likes of Moses and Barrie, who can play fullback, has played centre, can play halves, and can play 9. And that type of player is kind of key to any squad these days, isn't it?
Yeah. And somebody that can play a multitude of positions. And I look at somebody like Ash Golding at Huddersfield. He can play in the backs as a winger, as a fullback, and then he can play at 9. I've seen him play for Jamaica at loose forward. If I've got Ash in my squad, I'm making sure I carry him somewhere on the field. So tactically, the selection of your team is down to conditions. Are you playing behind a good kicking game? Are you going to play fast? Are you going to play quick? Are you going to try and do the work down the middle and try and roll a team down the middle of the field? So yeah, there's a lot of tactics behind 17s. I would say, you know, I'm maybe over egging it there, because sometimes you're restricted. Teams are restricted on who's fit and who's available and who can slot into the spots. But given everything as it could be, then those tactics can be the difference between winning and losing.
Definitely. Overarching with both teams, given what you've seen so far, what do you think the realistic expectations for both clubs is this year?
Yeah, top four. Saints top 2, I think, of both these teams. The side that Saints have got is more established, and I know there's some people come in, but the mentality, the dressing room, we sometimes term it as DNA, don't they? The winners, they breed winners at Saints, and it doesn't matter whether they're 17, 18 playing the first season, or like Robes and LMS at the back end. It's ingrained. We never write off the Saints. We say it in commentary all the time, because you know that the condition to stay in the grind, stay in the game, and believe that they can win, right up until that final whistle. So I've no dramas about Saints. I've no dramas about them being in the top 2. I think they'll touch some silverware this year. They'll get through to one of those big finals, but there's so many variables with suspensions, injuries, and all that kind of stuff. So I'll keep my powder dry there. In terms of Leeds, I think they're a better side than they were last year. I think they are top 4 material. But I like Hull KR. I like Catalan. There's a couple of teams we don't know what we're going to get from Warrington yet. They're still trying to rediscover their own identity. I like what Sam's doing, but it's a very slow process. They seem to be getting better week on week, but as we know with the Wire, they want it now, don't they? They want to go to a game knowing that it is their year, not everybody taking the you-know-what out of them, just singing it back at them.
Yep.
I have to say, just before, and I've done Warrington Saints at Warrington. I've done Saints Warrington at Saints, and I absolutely love it. I love the 2 sets of fans going at each other. My mind goes back last year. We were at Warrington. We were at the Halliwell Jones, and we were in the corner. You lads go to the game, so you know where Brian and all the lads stand. Yeah. And the Saints fans were there, I would say, an hour and a half before kickoff, singing, chanting, goading. It was absolutely brilliant. It was hilarious. We were laughing our heads off. But trying to be focused. So yeah, that matters good. So in summary, there, I'm no worries about our two teams, about Leeds and about Saints. But as we know, the story isn't straightforward, is it? It's about how you deal with stuff, and Saints have got the kids to fill in those gaps when they're needed, and Leeds are on that journey.
Yeah, I think the benefit for us is we always know how it ends up for Wire, as everyone else does. Right then, Barry, finally, before we let you go, Paul Wellens and the coaching staff, thank you for the scouting report. Much appreciated. And we can't let you go without asking you a prediction for Friday's game. You can sit on the fence, you can back a Leeds win.
Point in sitting on the fence. What would you drag down from to sit on the fence? So I think Leeds have got a chance in the game. I do, but a number of things have to go their way. So I always sort of go through the teams, and it's a trick that a guy called Brian Midlerst taught me. Brian was from St Helens, used to be the floor manager, great fella. Must be in his. We never actually knew how old he was. He was probably in his 90s at the time, but he used to go down the team 1 to 17. Would you take him? Would you take him? Would you take him? Would you take him? And then on balance, wherever your numbers are, that's the likely team to win. So if I look at that strategy, it's pretty much neck and neck. There's some quality in either side. And if I say, if both teams play to their potential, who wins? Well, at this stage, at this point, I'd say that's Saints. But if Saints are slightly off, if it's wet, if they make a couple of mistakes, if they get a couple of knocks and they don't play the way that they want to play for a variety of reasons, and they're a 7 out of 10 and Leeds are a 9 out of 10, then I think Leeds gets it. If I had to put my money on either side, I'd put my money on Saints, but I'd put an each way bet. I'd have a little sneaky £5 on Leeds, just because I think they've got the potential. That they're nowhere near where Saints are in mentality yet, but like I say, I think they're on that journey.
I think that's what always makes it such a good game between these two sides. You always go in there with hope and expectation, and I think we've done it quite a lot ahead of you over the years, and we've come away with some spankings. Let's hope Friday, for our sakes, isn't one of them. Barry, thank you very much for joining us. Kev, see, I told you his expertise would be worth it.
Definitely. It's better than mine.
That's great stuff. And as I say, I do, on occasion, I listen to your stuff. I'm not saying every week, I'm not, but I do. I listen to you. And your passion for your club is admirable. And I think we've all got to get on board. And as I've said to you, when I saw you at the Malmaninga dinner, you keep doing your stuff, because the more content we can get out there, the better. So all the best. Anything I can help you with in the future, let me know. I will be putting an invoice in for, I don't know, maybe a gift voucher for OD's menswear.
Yeah, good man. You haven't seen how quick I pay invoices. That's the only problem.
Hey, OD, just get them to write me the letter out.
Will do. Right, Barry. Thank you very much.
See you
I will
soon.
catch you very soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
He was a good crack, wasn't he, Kev?
He was very good value. Yeah, enjoyed that.
Delighted to see he watches us some weeks as well.
Well, would you expect him to watch us every single week?
Absolutely not, because I can't tell you the last time I watched something to do with Leeds. But do you know what? If you want to get a little bit of the inside info before you watch us play, we're obviously the place to be.
Yes, yeah. And why? You know what? It's probably due to the fact that we try and be honest, we try and be straightforward with things, and we just give an opinion on it. We're not claiming to be complete rugby league experts. We're just giving an opinion, and you know what? If we're clear with that, and we can either back down or double down on opinion, then fair enough.
Yeah, usually a little bit more of the double down and backing down.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Right, Kev, on the road Friday night, looking forward to the trip over to Headingley. And don't tell anybody where Tariq's is, because I don't want that queue being too long.
You know what? There's people who probably say, no, there's better. There's just one thing I've got to say ahead of this game, and that's don't be late for it. And I'm not talking to anyone watching this. I'm talking to you.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you for the instant reaction on Friday night. Kev, I might bring a new little gadget with me too. Catch you soon.